What's up, Raw Dog? This is Leon, the Paperback Maniac, coming at you with the third and final book review for Movie Mayhem, our month-long excursion into the world of celluloid terror on paper. Today, we are taking a look at Trade Secrets by Gabrielle Hughes. This book was published by Tor in 1982, although this is the 1987 reprint, and believe it or not, it just may be the rarest and most obscure novel I am reviewing on this channel to date. First of all, there are no reviews of this thing anywhere online. There's a single rating on Goodreads, and I guess partly because of its rarity, this book goes for outrageous sums of money. So as of this recording, there are currently 3 copies of the novel for sale on Amazon. The first 2 going for around $100, and the third one going for $12,133.20 plus $5.99 shipping. And then Abe Books is not much better. On Abe Books, there are currently 2 copies of the novel for sale. The first one going for $1,110.99, but with free shipping. And the second one going for $11,647.88, but with plus $4.99 shipping. So not a cheap book. I will go ahead and read the synopsis from the back. From backlot sound stages to plush executive suites, the studio is a hotbed of trade secrets. Sometimes the secret is money, sometimes power, frequently sex, rarely love. But when petite young story editor Ginny Levinson finds beautiful, bitchy Vice President Ermin Lesueur bleeding to death, one secret at least has proved fatal, and more than one player is out. So, as you can guess, this is not a horror novel. This is not a horror novel, but we'll get into it. This book opens with a deft description of Los Angeles. The Santa Ana winds are blowing. The smog has briefly cleared away, but there are brush fires burning in the Tujunga foothills, and the whole San Fernando Valley is filled with smoke and ash. And the Valley is the headquarters, our main setting, of Schwartz Films. This is a fictitious studio in LA. And we are introduced to the, the vice president in charge of creative affairs, one Ermin Lesueur, who is in her office in the evening, engaged in one of her absolute favorite work time activities, which is hot sex on her desk. Now, the person she's screwing tonight happens to be Nancy Baker, head of casting, and they're getting it on. Now, down the hall, we then meet the studio head of Schwartz Films, one Michael Bloomberg. He's the head of production, and he is currently having a little spat with his what's her name? Ginny Levinson, the story editor, and who is the main protagonist of this book. Now, Ginny has been having kind of an on-again, off-again affair with Bloomberg, the studio chief, and they're currently arguing because Ginny had invited him over for dinner after, they just got done, screwing in the workplace sauna attached to his office. And Bloomberg is like railing on about how, he wishes he could. He really likes Ginny, but his wife has really got him by the balls. In fact, he says that, he's even considered divorcing his wife, but when he brought the idea up to his accountant, the accountant laughed and said, he couldn't afford it. And, so some dialogue from Bloomberg, the studio chief, he says, "I can barely afford to buy myself a pair of fucking shoes once in a while, let alone a divorce. Trudy, that bitch." Meanwhile, he's saying this as he's wearing, shiny Gucci loafers. So, Ginny is sort of been seeing Bloomberg, but her heart is really with the head of security at Schwartz Films, a guy named Sal Nada. Now, her heart is with Sal, but she realizes that Sal really isn't looking for like a relationship. Of course, she realizes that Bloomberg isn't looking for a relationship either. But at least with Bloomberg, she can at least kind of climb the studio hierarchy and sort of make a name for herself. In fact, Bloomberg was the one that appointed her as story editor recently. So, that at least is working out for her. Now, Ginny is sort of an independent woman of the 80s. She's single. She is divorced, but she has no intention of remarrying, certainly not to a figure like Bloomberg, who she knows is, while she finds him, she has some affection for him, she knows that he would make a terrible husband. He would cheat on her, and he's kind of just a slime bag. But, so Ginny is working there. She's our main character. Now, at the start of this book, it's evening. So after she's kind of done like speaking with Bloomberg, she grudgingly is heading outside to her parking garage, and she is still kind of parking in the quote unquote. I forget what they call it. Like she's in like kind of like the far lot where all the sort of peons park. She hasn't been promoted yet to like the kind of like executive level parking garage. So she's kind of trekking it to this lot, and she's going down this tunnel. There's this long tunnel that leads to her parking space. And while she's going down there, she hears kind of laughing, and then she hears someone saying no, a moan, and then she hears a thud as of a body falling down. And she gets a little worried. She keeps walking down the tunnel. As she rounds the bend, she finds the collapsed body of Ermin Lesueur, the vice president of the studio, who has had her head bashed into a bloody pulp, and she's kind of writhing there on the ground. And she witnesses Ermin Lesueur die. She sees her die, and she panics. She backs up. She hears the tread of footsteps approaching. She's worried. She's like, oh my God, is the killer coming back? Like, is he going to get me now? It ends up being her kind of squeeze, Sal Nada, the chief of security, who finds her and, consoles her. They go back to the guard and call the police. So, so Ermin Lesueur, the vice president of Schwartz Films, has been murdered. Now, this is the main sort of mystery of this book. Now, we get a detective. We get a homicide detective named Griggs, who is sort of like allergic to everything. He's always like honking his nose in a Kleenex. He shows up and starts questioning Ginny. He's, asks her about like the body that she found. It doesn't look too good for Ginny, like being, coming across this body, being the one. And it was no secret that Ginny did not like Ermin Lesueur, the vice president, because the vice president had tried to block her appointment as story editor. And of course, the novel mentions over and over again that there are no like real relationships, especially among women. There's a lot of competition, and so there was no love lost between the two of them. Now, Griggs asks, do you know anyone who might have had it out for Ermin Lesueur? Who could it be? And Ginny thinks, well, who didn't hate her? Everyone hated her in the studio. So like the range of suspects could be like, a mile long, like all the people that would, bore a grudge against this woman and could have wanted her dead. So they go, and the inspector, Griggs, realizes he catches on that Ermin Lesueur was having an affair with that woman Nancy Baker from the beginning, the head of casting. They had been having a little lesbian affair, and he goes and questions Nancy Baker in her office. And what he finds in her office is a crystal replica of the Schwartz film, kind of like their logo, which is actually this thing. He finds a piece of it planted in her office with a piece missing from it. And this happens to be the murder weapon, because they had found a piece of crystal embedded in the back of Ermin Lesueur's skull, and they find this the statuette, the crystal replica of the lightning bolt, the Schwartz Films lightning bolt, in Nancy Baker's office, which this looks terrible, because not only now, they know that Nancy was having an affair with Ermin, but now they find the murder weapon in her office. Nancy, of course, claims that, she had no idea that was there. Someone must have planted it there. But she gets taken off to jail. She gets taken to jail, but they do a little further investigating. Griggs comes back, and he decides that, you know what, I don't think it was this Nancy woman. I think someone else was involved. And meanwhile, the stakes are being raised a little bit. One night while Ginny, our protagonist, is coming home to her Hollywood apartment, she gets attacked by a large, either a man or a woman, she's not sure, but this person is wearing outrageous blonde curls, what they call Chero curls. I had never heard of that before, and a huge bosom. And this person, basically tackles her to the ground and is about to try to murder her. And Ginny starts kicking and screaming for her landlord to come. Her landlord runs out with a gun, scares the guy away. And so, Ginny is all shaken up. She's like, oh my God, people are now trying to, get me. They called the cop, Griggs, the homicide inspector. He comes, he tells her, clearly the killer, whoever killed Ermin Lesueur, this was probably your attacker too. And he's like, did you get a good look at him or her? She's like, no, I don't know. It was dressed like a woman, but it could have been a man. Oh, the person had a beard, by the way. So she doesn't know if it was a man dressed up as a woman or a transvestite or whatever. But things are getting pretty dicey, pretty dangerous here. And, the story kind of putters along. One night, Ginny is having dinner with her actress mother, who's kind of like Hollywood royalty, and they're talking about the old glory studio days. And the mother is saying how her sister back in the day used to bang Moses Schwartz, the founder of Schwartz Films. She's like, oh yeah, you didn't know that? Yeah, my sister, your aunt, used to, she had an affair with the big man himself, the big cheese, Moses Schwartz. And then she's talking about how the guy had a nickname called Up and Down or something. And Ginny's like, well, where did that nickname come from? And she's like, well, it's because old Moses Schwartz could only get it up in an elevator. The only way he could have sex or get aroused was in an elevator. And then Ginny's like, that would prove to be quite logistically problematic, don't you think? And then her mom was like, oh no, it wouldn't actually, because Moses Schwartz had a secret elevator installed in the head suite, in the head office. And so that's where he would bang his girls on the down low. Now, when Ginny hears this, she's like, oh my God. She's like, wait, Moses Schwartz had a secret elevator? That means that Bloomberg, the current studio chief, has a secret elevator. And then she's like, where does that elevator go? And her mom's like, oh, that elevator goes down into, the parking garage, that tunnel in the parking garage. And then this is it. Ginny is like, oh my God, it's Bloomberg. He's the one. He had access to the parking garage through this secret elevator. And then she has to go and save her friend, because she had some British friend who had been researching the studio and had found these old architectural drawings of the studio. And the architectural drawings show their original plans, and they reveal that there is that elevator in the office. And she knew that her friend was going to go and show these to Bloomberg to maybe get a picture with him or something. So she's like, oh my God, when my friend goes and shows Bloomberg that he has these architectural plans, Bloomberg's going to see that those plans reveal that there's a secret elevator in his office, and he's going to kill him. I need to go save my friend. So she goes and rushes back to the by the way, if you didn't realize, I'm giving away this book because, who's going to pay thousands of dollars for it? It's not that good. But she rushes back to the studio to try, and she goes up to the office looking for her friend. She finds Bloomberg in there, who's claiming, oh, hey, how's it going? No, I haven't seen the guy. But she looks on the desk and sees that the brand of cigarettes that her friend smokes is smoldering in the ashtray. So she knows something is up. And then she just flat out says, hey, have you seen my friend? But I think his name was Bunny or something. She's like, have you seen Bunny? And he's like, no, why? And then she's like, well, he was going to, show you some architectural plans or something. I don't remember exactly. Basically, she eventually realizes that she finds Bunny. He's gagged and tied in the sauna room, adjacent to his office. And then Bloomberg is very upset. He's like, God damn it. He's like, first I had to kill Ermin Lesueur. He's like, and then Bunny, now I got to kill you too. He's like, my life is just shit. I'm so I'm so harassed. Like, when's it ever going to end? He's like so embattled. And it's kind of funny. Ginny, even then, when her life is like in mortal danger, she like feels a little sorry for Bloomberg, because he always just seems so put upon, even in this situation. But basically, Bloomberg basically attacks her, subdues her, ties her up. And then he's thinking like, what am I going to do now? He's like, I've got this other guy tied up in the sauna room. I've got you here. He's like, what should I do, Ginny? Like, plot was never my strong point. He's like, you're the story editor. And then Ginny is like, she's like, if you think that I'm going to like rewrite my own murder, like you've got another thing coming, mister. Like, kind of like hilarious dialogue. And then at probably the most like charming part of this book, Bloomberg decides, I've got a plan. He gags Ginny, and he calls his buddy Doc Holloway on speakerphone. Doc Holloway is a famous legendary script doctor who has done like all kinds of basically rewrites for movies, like a lot of the times unofficially, like just getting paid under the table to like do a little polish or a script rewrite. He calls his buddy Doc Holloway and says, hey Doc, I need your help, man. He's like, I've got this great idea for a murder mystery with a twist, but I don't know how the killer's gonna get away with it. Could you help me? And so Doc Holloway, of course, won't answer anything until they talk business, and they decide on 10 grand. So Bloomberg's, I'll pay you 10 grand if you help me out right now. He explains kind of the scenario of how there are these two people. He says the murderer is the hero. He did it only for, selfless reasons, but he has to like clear his name. And what should he do? And so the guy, Doc Holloway, is like, oh, okay, well, you can just make it look like it was like, like a murder suicide. One of them killed the other one and then killed himself out of, guilt. Basically tells him what to do. So Bloomberg hangs up, and he's about to do it. Well, he decides first he's going to take the Ginny's friend down through the secret elevator to his car and put him in the trunk. As he does that, of course, Ginny's main squeeze, Sal Nada, the security guard, shows up, comes to the rescue, takes down Bloomberg. They have a little fight first, a little fist fight. Takes him down. Bloomberg is like wheeling and dealing the whole way. He's like, hey, I'll pay you both, 100 grand. I'll give you a 3-picture deal. What do you say? Let's forget the whole thing. And of course, they don't buy it. They call Griggs, the detective. He comes and arrests them, and everything is hunky-dory. And so that's kind of like I basically condensed this novel down into a nutshell for you. Then we get kind of a protracted and largely unnecessary denouement where we learn sort of like that Bloomberg had been, arraigned. He of course, he got a reduced sentence and was sent to some, minimum security place where he was able to like practice his ping pong and, teach other disgraced execs about screenwriting. And, but things have turned out well for Ginny. Ginny and her friend have gotten they've started their own production company. They got a sweet 3-picture deal, and, things are looking up for them. Ginny's got a new Mercedes. Things turned out okay for Ginny. So, yeah, that is the book. I knew that this was going to be a mystery, and I had kind of been, wanting, a little palate cleanser. I was ready for something different. I was trying to figure out the final book that I would review for Movie Mayhem. I had a couple of, choices. I decided to go with this one because this was, this isn't really about movies, but it's about the industry, and it's about sort of like, this idea of sort of this seedy sort of like hotbed of, greed and backstabbing beneath the, glitter and razzmatazz. It's nothing new. I think even in 1982, this was nothing new. But on the plus side, I have to say that the book was incredibly well written. It was actually really, really well written. The prose was solid. The characterization was very in-depth, and that was probably its strongest suit. Pretty light on story, actually. Light on the action, long on character and exposition. There was kind of a lot of exposition, which I don't, always. I don't like to read a lot of exposition. If we're getting the exposition through action and the story and stuff, I like it. But like info dumps are not, I think, effective way of storytelling. So they would do that, but the book is fine. Certainly not worth what is being charged for. So don't even think about, paying anything for this. I mean, unless you found this for a couple of bucks. But there were some charming things. I mean, some of the dialogue and some of the characters were well drawn for the most part, And it just mentions, like, there's comical scenes, like when Ginny and her mom are dining at some, swank Hollywood restaurant. They realize their server isn't there, their usual server. So they ask the other server, they're like, hey, where's Bobby? And then the other server's like, oh, Bobby got a sweet 3-part gig on Dallas. Like, so I'm filling in for him. But, he's due to be electrocuted on the 3rd episode, so he'll be back. Me and Bobby are in the same acting class. It kind of just shows the ubiquitous, like nature of just like all these wannabe actors in Hollywood. Interestingly, it even touches on the sort of like the idea of sexual harassment and even like there's a scene where Ginny admits to her mom that on her 12th birthday she had been I guess kind of like molested by an agent at her birthday party, and her mother's like shocked. She's like, why didn't you tell me this, Ginny? And Ginny's like, well, I don't know, I guess it wasn't really a big deal. I mean, he just like grabbed my butt and squeezed it. Like, I didn't really know what to say or who to talk to. And that's kind of, it makes me think that this Gabrielle Hughes probably, I mean, based on the way that this book is written, she probably knew quite a bit about the industry, because that has been, not a very well kept secret for a very long time, that there is just that Hollywood is rife with just sleazebags, and that there's a lot of that kind of action, especially toward children, sadly. So that was kind of interesting to see. But would I recommend this book? I mean, if you found it for a couple of bucks in a bookstore like I did, maybe. I mean, if you like mysteries or if you like Hollywood insider stories. But I suspect most people who regularly, view these videos are horror fans like me. It's not horror, really. I mean, there's just that one scene where she finds Ermin Lesueur. It is pretty graphic, though. I mean, like, the woman literally had her skull bashed in with this crystal lightning bolt. But I mean, just personally, wasn't really seedy enough for me, I should say. I don't know what that says about me. It wasn't really sensationalist enough. Didn't really titillate me. I don't know if I'm just like desensitized, or if I'm just like, all these horror books I read, but every now and then it's good to switch it up, I guess. But yeah, anyway, Trade Secrets, it was fine. The sole other rating on Goodreads was 3 stars. That's about what I would give it. I would give it about a 3 stars just based on the writing and the characterization. Story and plot wasn't the best, but there you go. So that's Trade Secrets, guys. Hope you enjoyed the review. Stay tuned. Tomorrow is the 31st, and I'm going to be doing my last video for Movie Mayhem, and it's one that I'm pretty excited about, so definitely come back and check that out. Until then, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.